Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Synergen Leadership Podcast. Look, today I speak with Colin Wilson, who's the Managing Director and owner of a company called Key Business Advisors. And I think this is a really interesting interview because Colin talks about a couple of challenging times that he had when key people left his business and how he responded to that as a leader. And it was a very open and frank interview. And I think that was really refreshing for people to hear a business owner talk with such passion about how he believes that his people are the absolute key to his success. So happy listening and really look forward to hearing what you think.
Welcome to the Synergen Leadership Podcast with Julian. Julian speaks with leaders from around Australia to bring you their leadership story and share their insights about being a leader. To further help you build your leadership capability, Julian shares his own insights about leadership and the tools and techniques he uses as a leader.
All right, well, welcome Colin, and thanks for taking the time to be part of the podcast. So everyone's got a bit of context about you and where you are now. So you can give us a little bit of a story or history of where you are right now.
Yeah, I'm the Managing Director or owner of a company called Key Business Advisors. We're a company that's 10 years old. What we do is, our catchphrase is we take businesses from good to great. And pretty much, how that works is there's three parts to our business. We get into a business, a small, medium-sized business, and we help them grow the business through the business owner with their management team. We also do customized sales training, customer service training, and really try and help that business become customer centric. And we offer an outsourced HR services, so everything from recruitment to employment contracts, position descriptions, policies, procedures, termination, exit interviews, etc. So that's a whole package of what we do. It's very successful.
Okay, and how many people in the team?
Yeah, there's 10 staff in the team. So we have five professional HR advisors, a couple of trainers, and then admin, and a client service manager.
All right, so what's an interesting fact about QBA that people might not know?
An interesting fact. I'd say for people who know us, they know what we do. So, we've still got customers that have been with us from our first 5 customers that we brought on board 10 years ago are still customers of today. And, we don't do a huge amount of work because they're great, but they get us in from time to time. So I think, what people don't know is, we're not a business that goes in and just does it and then moves out. We like to be part of that partnership all the way through.
So I'd like to take you back in your career, back to your very first leadership role.
Yep.
And can you give us a little bit of context about that, if you could? Thanks.
Yeah, okay. So I spent 22 years in the office technology industry, which was like door knocking, on the phones, sales. And I was approached once to become a sales manager for an office technology firm. Not one of the big players, a small player, like a reseller. And I took that challenge. So I became their sales manager, which was really, really interesting. Well, that was now 15, 16 years ago.
And what were some of the mistakes you made in your first role?
Well, as a young person, so, I was 32 years of age at the time, and I remember it well. So as a young person going in, I believe I've got leadership skills in motivating people and driving them, and I know how to, I had a sales team to look after, so I knew what to do. But to actually manage people, I had no idea what I was doing. To be honest, I just went on the way I was managed over the time as a person in the business of previous companies that I worked for. But what the organisation did very, very well is they gave me a mentor that sat with me for 2 or 3 days a week for the first 3 to 6 months, and that was absolutely brilliant.
Wow, that would be unusual, I would imagine.
Very unusual, but they knew I was raw, and I think when I went to the interview, I said I'll be a locomotive, I'll just push through anything, just make it all happen, and I was. And we're going back now, 16, 17 years ago, and back in those days, the rules of HR are not what they are today. And that's part of the reason why I've got a HR company today, because I probably teach people what not to do rather than what to do.
Yeah.
And I use my HR professionals to verify all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, but I remember the very first week, They talked about leadership, empowerment, and all that sort of stuff. And, it probably wasn't leadership empowerment. It was, you need to let them know who's boss. So here's 3 people we'd like you to terminate between now and Friday, so they know that you're serious about growing this business. And I executed that, and I learned some valuable mistakes in that process, and that was never personalised. A termination with somebody, because all of a sudden you just end up in a two-way argy-bargy that really doesn't achieve anything.
And what about some of the successes from that role?
I think if I go back to that company, being a reseller, they had really good commissions but very low base salaries, or it was commission only. The best success stories I have is we recruited young people. So what I realised very quickly that some people are not prepared to change, and especially if they've been in the industry for a long period of time. And so I got fresh blood in and really developed a team. We used to do things like, back in those days, social media and all that wasn't around. So I used to run this cool running thing where all the team would have to go out. We'd go to an area and just absolutely cold call that area and saturate it, and I'd create prizes and stuff like that. Having a young, experienced team, I realised that sales skills was something that they lacked, so we just kept training. And then what I did very cleverly worked out that for the guys who knew what they were doing, I left them alone. And for the guys who didn't know what they were doing, I'd always get them to bring the customers to me. So we used to offer like a silver service. We'd invite the customer into the showroom, because I realised every time I went out, we couldn't hit the target. So it was a strategy that it's what you had to do to actually try and hit the targets. And when I walked into that business, the Melbourne business wasn't travelling too well. So I had a huge task ahead of me. But so the success was that I trained a bunch of young adults to become really good salespeople. And some of those young people of today are still in contact with me and have moved on as managers, leaders, and very, huge success stories elsewhere. And when I run into them, they say to me, it all started with you, Cole. You just gave us everything, which is what I think is leadership.
It must be a great feeling.
It's a huge feeling. Yeah, huge feeling. And it's and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today because that taught me about what we need to do out there in the marketplace in training young people and growing them. So, today's market, a lot of them go to uni, they get degrees, but are they street smart? And what I mean by that, do they understand what cross-selling, upselling, customer service is? And they don't. And as many companies out there, sales is the blood of the business. It brings the income in. If they don't have those, all of their staff, they're on the same page in looking after their customers, then it's too easy for customers today, just to Google and move on. And yesterday I was with one of our clients, and we're just having a chat, and I just said to him, just the Australia's market in professional salespeople and good customer service people is diminishing because a younger generation just think, well, everything can be bought online, so you don't have to have that communication. And I know it's part of the future, but there is, to survive, I believe, 2025 and beyond as a business, you must have a customer-centric business. And, people say, well, who needs sales training? And I always say, anyone who talks to a customer, because you can bring the business in at the front end, but if it's falling out the back end, then you don't have a business. Yeah.
And would you say that during that role that you decided leadership was for you?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I've always wanted to be a leader. I guess, I come from a family of 4 kids. I'm the middle boy. There's 3 boys. I look up to my older brother, but definitely it's in me. I want to lead, and I don't probably much lead. Probably more so, I want to teach people how to lead. That's my passion. What I do is not work. Yeah. It's what my passion is. I just love it.
And how long were you in that role?
I was in the role there for 3.5 years.
All right. So
actually, sorry, no, wrong. I was in that role for 2.5 years. Okay. When there was an amalgamation of technology companies, I moved into another company, and I was there for 3.5 years.
Right. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So moving in, to your second leadership role, you've had a taste of leadership.
Yep.
Can you give us a bit of context about what that role was?
So my second role was from that company I went and worked for another organisation, and I had an amazing leader in that business, and he actually works for us today, which is amazing, right? So and I look up to him, I still look up to him, and he was really, really good, empowering. So when I joined into that role, I actually didn't go in as a manager. I went in there as a major account salesperson, and then obviously doing what I do, they recognised that I was good at it and leadership, and then after a couple of years, they wanted to develop me into a sales manager in the major accounts business, which is what I did. And that was really, really good. I was a smaller team, so an easier team to actually run, and it was more around strategy. So the first management leadership role I had was around volume, and this one was more around strategy. So it was really interesting.
Okay. And what skills do you think you brought to that role to enable you to make that shift from volume to strategy?
I think what it was just a way of different thinking. If I look back at it, so when we was at the first ops technology company, it was more around lots of small machines had to be sold, where in major accounts it's a big beast like Telstra. And we had this strategy, and I use the word Telstra, let's aim for the biggest account that we can actually get, being Telstra, and they're going to teach us on how to win all the other smaller accounts that sit under top 500 type of business. So that was the strategy, and the strategy worked. It helped us. It was more teamwork. At the time, the organisation invested in another mentor to come in, and we did some Miller Heiming training, and that was just absolutely fantastic about how we blueprint an organisation to get in there. So it was more around strategy, and what I did was guide that strategy and led that strategy with a team of fantastic people.
Okay, and what would you say your significant successes were in that role?
I'd say that the best success I had in that role, or actually prior to getting into that role, is I practiced what I preached. So that strategy with that leader that I had, his name was Adrian, what we did was we worked on winning these accounts, and then as I got into that management role, we wanted to transfer that strategy into the whole team. We had some really good wins, but probably, what were some of the biggest learnings? I probably learned more what not to do, if that makes sense. So again, learnings are, people learn through different things, and I'm one of those people that let's roll up the sleeves, get into it. Okay, so if I don't get it quite right the first time, what do we learn by that? Now let's go and improve it second time. And I am a perfectionist, so if I think back at the team, I'm still good friends with all the people who are in that team of today, and again, I see that's the traits of a good leader. I don't believe anyone in my team on either companies hate me from being a leader. And that's an really interesting observation, but I think that really shows true leadership.
Okay, and why did you decide to leave?
And then that's a really tough question, and the tough question on that one is, when I took on the role of becoming a sales manager for the major account division, I wanted to be professionally trained, and that was the conditions of the role. And Julian, after 18 months, I've kept asking, and it didn't happen. Pretty much what happened was I decided that, that's a valuable lesson that company learned after that if you've got good people that are asking for training, then you need to train them, because if you don't train them, they'll leave. And I'm a good example of that. So that's how Key Business Advisors actually formed. And how it actually formed was, being in the major accounts, I would talk to a lot of dealerships, and I'd say, look, we're working on an account here, and is it possible for you to get one of your salespeople to pop out or go and audit where this business was? And we had to work through a channel within the organisation. And as I got to know these dealers would say to me that, I don't have enough staff, or they're not trained. It's hard for me to train staff in a regional area. I've got to send them to Melbourne. We know we need to do it, but it's just hard. We're a small business. So that started resonating that, there's training opportunities in regional areas, and there's also, they don't know how to manage staff. So I have no HR experience. So when we started Key Business Advisors, I went and got myself management trained. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And so all the things I wanted to learn, I actually went and did that. And every year I put myself through some intense course over a week to go and learn, because it makes me more powerful. So that's how the business actually formed. And when we started, I knew a lot of the dealership owners, and they were a magnet to our business. And still today, a lot of those customers are customers of ours today, which I'm very, very grateful for.
Okay. All right, so you've had a couple of leadership roles, and you've started your own business.
Yep.
Can you give us any more context around key business advisors in terms of how you measure success, any performance metrics that you monitor?
Yep. So I have a strategy, and the strategy is actually that I have, and I've implemented it in this business as well as every other business that we've done work for. It's very, very simple. So first of all, number one, it is the owner of the business has to empower their staff. And we do employer and staff satisfaction surveys. We bought into a HR business when a HR coach franchise when we first started, because I just wanted material. I needed material. And then basically what happened is when we do employer and staff satisfaction surveys, the information and the context that gave us back is staff want to know how the direction of the business is going. There's always a lack of recognition and praise. Pay rates are down there in the bottom 5, and it really talks about how a high-performing business works and how a low-performing business works. But our strategy is that the business owner has to share what's going on in the business. So, and we link it all back through a HR process in every business we do, and our current business. So pretty much what it is we set our goals for 12 months. So in May, we set our goals of what we want for the next 12 months. So I work financial year to financial year. In this business, Stephanie, who's our HR manager, came in to our accountants and actually committed to what she believed her team could actually contribute to the business, to our accountants, which I think is brilliant. And she lives by that, swears by that, and every day she comes to work, she drives to hit those targets. So, and what we do is we share the business. Well, we have our, like every small, medium, large business, you have your monthly, Monday morning meetings, whatever it is. But it's linked to a strategy. So we do things like, we have a team meeting, what's going on, and it's all about having fun, right? It's never a bad thing, right? I always talk about the sandwich. You tell them something great, hey, we need to work on this, and then finish off with something great. And then that's linked to, the end of the month, hey, they've performed. And that's what the manager does. And then every quarter, I do the reviews with my leaders in the business. And and we measure the business quarterly. And then we also do in this business is in that quarter, we'll talk about how the success has actually gone. In this business, we love milestone moments. So if we've had a record quarter, my team get looked after. So we've done things like been in Sydney, organised a Hummer, and gone around the city and taken photos everywhere. I remember once I took them down to High Point. We had breakfast. I gave them $250 cash each and said, you need to go and buy something for yourself, not for your family or anything like that, and come back to the boardroom and I'll man the phones while you show me what you bought for yourself personally. So I think it was $200, and it wasn't irrelevant. It was all about celebrating those milestone moments, but it's all linked to a strategy. So every quarter we do quarterly reviews, and quarterly reviews are around, and a lot of business owners and leaders don't get this. They think that you've got to, if someone's not performing well, you've got to wait till that review. We don't. That's not what it's about. Leadership is about how you grow your staff. So very simple. 4 key areas. Actually, 5 key areas. One is, and they're in all our PDs. Number 1 is how do you contribute to the business financially. Number 2 is all about customer service, how you deal with customers of the business. Number 3, business processes. So we all have CRM systems, processes in a business they need to follow. And then number 4 is around team leadership. So that's around teamwork with one another and sharing and stuff like that. And 5 is professional development. So what do you need to do? So when we do a quarterly review, when we go through all of that, and they rate themselves and we rate them. But when it comes to, for an example, at the end of the quarter, the personal development, that's where I'm like, okay, what do you need to grow your skill sets? And Stephanie's a really good example of that, because she came to our business as a mature HR professional. She's been with us 4 years, and she runs that HR team now. She is a really good example. And in her last quarterly review, she said to me that she's following everything that I do, but she'd like to get some more help. So I engaged another professional who specialises in management, change management, and he actually is her mentor in the business, which is what I do for other businesses. So I know that's a pretty long-winded answer, but that's what I'm passionate about, and you hear that in my voice, of getting that strategy right. And we've got many case studies where we've had business owners come to us saying, we want to sell our business, can you help us prepare for sale? And when they put that strategy in their business and really empower their people, what ends up actually happening is they don't want to sell because they're making money. So and they're really good clients of ours. So I think that's a thing, that's an area that and we had a discussion before we started this podcast about you can do training, but then what comes out of the training? And I think that's the real value. So when staff go and get trained in a company, and it happens all the time, they come back and go, how's the training? Yeah, it was fine. No, that doesn't work like that. What we do is say, well, okay, what's 5 things you got out of the training that would benefit the business? And they've got to present that to the rest of the team in one of those meetings. And we want to make sure we create that change to actually improve the business. And, when we talk to a lot of business owners or managers of corporations and they want training, well, I always ask, what's the outcome you want out of the training? Well, we want results. Everyone wants results. So, okay, well, how will you make sure those results stay in the business? What's your strategy in actually doing that? And I think at businesses of today don't do that well. I can talk for hours on this, but it's some of the things that really stand out is we put staff on, and a lot of business owners I talk to say, well, I pay them to do the job, right? And we hear that all the time. But the human brain is designed to be a sponge, so we need to actually fuel our staff and fuel that sponge. Now, I'll say it, and we recommend this, you always employ with the right attitude and then teach the skill sets. You don't do it the other way around. And that's where, our HR team, spend a lot of their life in going in there and sorting out issues. And, issues cost money to a business. If they get the strategy right and create that leadership and empowerment, then what comes from that is peace of mind. I don't go to bed at night time stressed, if that makes sense, because I know that Stephanie in this business runs that HR team like clockwork. And, and I've got another employee, and I talk about Marie in the business, who's been with me for 7 years. She was my old PA, one of those companies that we talked about before. And just, there's friendship there, I'll say that, but there's just huge respect from one another in the actual business. And again, I see that as true leadership. And yesterday, this customer that I was talking to you about that I was with, we're having a conversation about, he's got 70 staff in his business, been going 25 years, hugely successful. His son's come in to actually run the business. I'm going to do some work there. But the conversation we had yesterday was around the amount of staff he's gone through his business that have gone, female that's gone and had a baby and then come back and gone and had a second baby. And he had one woman, I think, had 4 kids, right? But the loyalty, the knowledge, all that IP and everything like that, he goes, when they come back, they just work hard. They're grateful for working in the company. And to me, that's true leadership.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind exploring what you said about having a very clear strategy for that, because a lot of the leaders that I talk to maybe can't articulate it as well as you did. So how did you've been in business 10 years.
Yep.
At what point did you realise that you needed that level of strategy and that level of system and structure here?
Well, now that's really interesting. Okay, so when we started the business, we grew 80% every year. For the first 4 years, we were finalists with Telstra Small Business Awards. Everything we touched turned to gold. And we had all that strategy in place. Then what happened is I became slack. Right? So you learn by mistakes. I became slack. Let things go. And then what happened is I had a few of my staff leave and start up against us and wiped out like 1/3 of my clientele. So that's a really expensive exercise to actually learn. So from that, what was the strategy after that? It is so watertight that you keep your eyes on the big picture of what's going on within your actual business. Now, trust is an interesting thing, and there's a couple of them that I had huge trust with. One in particular, who I wanted to come on as a partner in the business, and he was talking to my accountant. So the trust was very, very trusting. And what unveiled from that is it took me a while to get over, but it's a learning experience, and I've got a bit of team now for it.
Cool.
Yep.
So a bit of a off-track question for a minute. What do you think one of the biggest leadership myths is?
Myth of a leadership. I think when people get into a leadership role, they think they just have to be important, right? So the myth is, as a leader, that I now have to tell people what to do. And I have a saying, like, when someone gets into a management role, and it's in one of our programs that we offer. We talk about a manager does things right, but a leader does the right thing. That's and I think the myth is when people become managers, and I'm a victim of that. So I'm a person that's gone from sales, very successful in sales, into a management role, and there's two ways you'll learn. You'll either learn going through, I'm going to manage people and have process and not rule the book, and not be, if I can say it, not so much a people's person. You follow the company book. That's if they haven't, because most small businesses don't. And leadership is around, you bend the rules a little bit, but the myth is, when I go into a lot of companies and they become a manager for the first time and that leadership comes through, what actually happens is it's sometimes misread. The myth is, you've got to become this important, powerful person. And in actual fact, leadership is about you make your team successful, they'll make you successful. And I say to many businesses that I go into, to managers that I do work with, like what you do, if you want to be a successful manager, then you empower people to take your job. And some people don't like that. But, my belief is if I can do that, then I can move on and do other things. I was once as an adjudicator for Manager of the Year. And, there's all these criteria, around, financial figures and customer service and all these stats. And they asked me what I thought, and I said, this is how I rate a manager, a great manager. When they're not there, the business performs as good as if they were there. That's leadership. That's a manager. That's a true manager, because he's empowered people to step up and know what's the right things, know the right things to do.
So a little bit more about some of your views on leadership.
Yep.
So how would you describe yourself as a leader?
So I think I'm a very collaborative person. So for me, I like to get into people's heads. I want to know what motivates them. So I think a leader is a person that holds people accountable. Again, I like setting goals, like SMART goals, with my staff, and I want to hold them accountable for those SMART goals. So leadership to me is you need to have three core areas. So as a leader, you need to be a really good coach. So you need to know how to coach your team or staff to achieve an outcome. But you can't coach somebody if they don't want to be coached, and you need to know what they want to achieve. So I think that's number one. The next thing you need to be is a really good mentor. And there's a difference between the two. So a mentor is a person that has been there, done it, walked in their shoes, and shows them the way how to do it, puts their whole ego aside, and creates that empowerment for that person to grow. So when you put those two together, that's a good ingredient. And the third part of that ingredient is you need to be a good manager. So by a good manager is you need to, yes, follow the rules, but you need to let staff know when they're doing well, but also when they're not doing well and underperforming. And then, how can we actually improve that? So going back over the years of my career, what I've done, I've had managers that have come in and spat the dummy and absolutely sprayed a team. And I've done that too, because that's the way I was trained, but that doesn't work. So, that leadership skill that you need to have, you really just need to, it's very simple. You need to empower people below you. And I have this methodology, and it comes from Patrick Lencioni, and from the 5 behaviours of a cohesive team. And I train it and I believe in it. Number one is you need to have trust. So there's got to be really good trust with yourself and who you're working with, yeah? And from that trust, you should be able to have some really good conflict. Now, a leader is also a person that that goes to their team and says, well, how do I perform? And millennials of today, they're coming into our workforce and, if I go back, 15, 20 years ago, when you did a performance appraisal, it was once a year, it was a one-way street. And today, and I know that doesn't work. So in today's world, it's a two-way street. The actual employee wants to rate the manager on how they're actually being, the leader, how they're being managed, which I think is brilliant. So I think, if when we talk about that Patrick Lencioni, you need to have trust. You need to be able to have good conflict, and that's not arguing. That's what's right for the business. And then, we get committed on what we were trying to achieve and hold that accountability. And then what happens is the results come. And a good example is, I've been in a performance appraisal with one of my team members who, I guess you could say, dropped the ball a little bit. When we had that conversation, she said to me, Colin, you're really unhappy with my performance. And I remember looking at her in the eye, and it's about relationship. And I said, you have no idea how frustrated I am with you right now. But her figures skyrocketed because I think a leader needs to also share some of their feelings and vice versa, or with how that relationship's actually working. And I'm going to tell you, we go into some businesses where they say, right, this person's not performing, terminate them. And I say to the business owner, well, they must have been good when you employed them. So how did you fail, right? And or a manager, how did you fail? So what have you not done that's kept them empowered? And I think that's what we've got to do is in leadership. Okay.
So what do you think some of your positive leadership traits are, if you could distill them down into a...
Yeah, I think, small. Number one is, and it's actually written on the board in the corridor, first thing is about quality. So everything we do has got to be quality. The next thing is about focus. So we need to be 100% focused. So when you're leading somebody, you need to be focused on them, not focused on other things. And I think delivery is the third one. You need to deliver as a leader, not only I think you need to deliver to yourself, to your employees, and to your customers. It all combines. And so they're my three things: quality, focus, deliver. Yep.
And when you put those three together, do you think that's enabling you to get the most out of your team?
Yep. Yeah, because we're empowering them. And if you empower your staff, and I don't claim to know it all. But what I do is, I follow some great leaders out there, and Richard Branson's one of my favourites. Yeah. He whatever gets put up, I just sit there and read because he's dyslexic. I'm dyslexic, so there's a bit of a connection there. And I just, I just think he's just an absolute awesome bloke. And I think, from a female's point of view, I think Red Balloon, Naomi Simpson, I think is. Again, I'm inspired by her, and I've never met them, but that is a goal of mine, is to go and meet both of those people and just have a chat.
So one of the things I'm always interested in is any particular frameworks and models that leaders are using. And you mentioned before, and you can't see this, but behind me there's a banner about the 5 behaviours of a cohesive team. Why does that resonate with you? Why did you choose that to be part of your business?
Because I think small business, our clientele ranges from employing, 1 staff right through to, I think our biggest client's got 300 staff. But majority of them are between 20 to 100 staff. I come out of major corporate, so there's department after department after department, and to get a decision, it's like turning a ship, right? So that's why I got out of major corporate. But in a small business, I find the reason why I chose Patrick Lencioni's model is I'm accredited with DISC for a start, and I think that's really good understanding people's personalities. And but I think when you go off-site and you bring your leadership team together to have a conversation, warts and all, about what we're here to try and achieve. And I think, the historical part of that model is absolutely fantastic, because why do people behave the way they do? I think once we understand that, we can actually move forward and work better as a team. So that's the model that I've got. And, we spoke about Six Sigma, and there are other models out there, but that's the one that resonated with me, because when you've got a small business, you become a lot more, I think, closer with your team. And some business owners, they bring their staff over for dinner and they get all of that. That's really difficult. And also, they're brothers or father and sons. But the 5 behaviours really just, I feel, puts that line in the sand of what we're trying to actually achieve. So, and when I do that workshop, it's an offsite, and it's for a couple of days. And what I also do is I bring in one of my HR professionals with me as a note taker, and to just to manage some of the emotions that actually comes in. But we did one particular client, and I had the owner crying, just this emotion that was coming out, and after 20 years of emotion come out, and there's no greater empowerment than seeing that. So that's why I like using it. And I think sometimes we can get too bogged down in strategy, and small business, medium-sized business, it travels fast. We could spend 6 months working on strategy and not bring $1 into the business. And our clientele, they need results, and majority of clientele that come to us, they come to us because cash flow is not going so well, and things are not working in the business. So we've got a time length to actually get some money. Otherwise, we don't get paid. So I think that's why I like that model so much.
Okay.
And just talking about the offsite, I'm very proud of my business, and what I do is I bring a lot of our clients into our business. I showcase what we do, and they love that. And we do offsites. So we actually every quarter do like a half day offsite with the team, and then once a year we'll go for 1 or 2 days an offsite. And the last one we did was in June of this year, and where we had it at our accountant's office, and what we did was we talked about, this is our strategy for 2017, 2018. I had my view of the business. I had Stephanie's view of the HR team. I had Marie's view of the customer service. I had Lorraine, my wife, works in the business. This is our marketing strategy. Like, it was really clear where we want to actually go. And I had the accountants come in and verify that, you guys keep doing what you're doing. This is what's actually going to come out of it. And, I talked about those performance appraisals, every quarter. And my philosophy is what constitutes a pay increase for a staff member? Because that's a really big conversation. So for me, you give me 4 good quarters every year, I'll give you a best pay increase possible based on the performance of the business. And what happens a lot in today's world is staff want a pay increase, and businesses are not sharing how the business is actually performing. So what then happens, it puts pressure on the business owner, and some of them can't afford to give those pay increases, and they lose people. But I find if they go in through leadership and say, listen, our business is hurting right now, we need to go from here to here, and if we can go from here to here, we're all going to fruit from it. And I just see, and that's happened in this business where staff have come back, stayed back later, started earlier. We had a scenario where we lost a HR professional at the start of the year. I've got one of our staff members here, Rebecca. She works 3.5 days a week, and because she's got a young family, and she came in on the days that she knew that we're hurting. That's, to me, empowerment. That is, and I rewarded her for that. So again, it all links back to your strategy. And I'll say it, my team probably got the best pay increase that I've ever done in the business in June of this year, and that's 100%. And it's a good feeling when it happens. It's a terrible feeling as a business owner when things don't go right. And I say, they lay awake at night and roll over thinking about 1 of 3 things. Number 1 is profit, number 2 is their staff, and 3 is customers. Where are they? So we either haven't got enough, or we've got too many, and now we're lacking in customer service. And that's how you grow a business, is when you've got too many customers. Well, okay, now that strategy is we need to onboard new people.
So it sounds like you've got a high level of discretionary effort from your team because of the leadership you've provided.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so. And you have to enjoy being with your team, if that makes sense. You have to enjoy, and it's not necessarily, we don't get together after hours or anything like that. But if we go out for a dinner or a lunch or a breakfast, or we do a team meeting, everyone knows their role. I just call it, it's like a well-oiled machine, and I run it like a football club, a good football club. And I barrack for North Melbourne, but I always relate it to the Hawks. Alistair Clarkson, what an absolute legend of a coach, ex-North Melbourne player, of course. And I think what's important is it's about making sure that everyone holds one another accountable. And the interesting thing about the 5 behaviours that we talked about, I found out that, what they did a few years ago is they actually all went away as a team, walked the Kokoda Trail, and they did a program very similar to that about the trust, about, the conflict to be committed. And at the end of that year, Buddy Franklin checked out, and they thought that everyone thought that club was in dire straits, and then they win 3 premierships. Now, that doesn't happen by one player. That happens with a team. And again, that's the way that I see leadership is that's how you got to run a small business. And that you might have a player that might get injured, there might be a player that might leave and that sort of stuff. But if you can build a great business, great culture, empower your people, what actually happens is you start to build an organic pipeline of people wanting to come and join you. That's a good feeling.
So what's your biggest leadership challenge coming up?
We actually had that conversation before. My biggest leadership challenge is, how do I replace me? So that's again, I'm very close to my business, and I've engaged Warren, who's doing mentoring with Stephanie, to come and help me with that process, because sometimes we think we know the answers, but we're so close to our business it doesn't stand out. So I'm a big believer in that. What I have done is I've just gone and this year, only for the month of November, and learned how to become an advisory chair. So, there are 2 types of advisory boards. There's a governance, and there's an advisory board about, how do we grow a business. And I've really dug into becoming that advisory, and that's where I want to transition to, because our current clients that we've got, they've been with us for a long time, and it's like, okay, what's next, Colin? So, the advisory board is next, but I do need to create that mini-me. And that's always on the top of my mind of how do I do that? But I'm still young. I've got a few years to work on that. But I have a strategy, and that strategy is that we are, like here you are doing podcasts, we are going to go and do a bit of online training next year. And I think that's the path I'm going to go. But I definitely need somebody to support me. I have 2 wonderful people in the business that help me on the sales side of things. So I have the expert Roger, who is a king of retail. Everyone loves him because he's got high energy, even though he's a mature person, and he's a magician. He just brings life into every place he works through. And I mentioned Adrian, who's my old boss. I use him as a mentor for a lot of the business-to-business stuff that I do to go in. So he'll go out and tag with salespeople out on the road, or he'll go and mystery shop the work that I've done. So we've got a real good setup. But I definitely need to find somebody that can help me do that.
And one of the things that I'm personally passionate about with leadership is networking, because I find that a lot of leaders don't necessarily put the focus on it that I believe they should. So what are your views on networking? How do you do it? What's the value in it for you?
So I'll tell you, I am the king of networking, because king of sales, you've got to be a good networker. So we know our stats. 83% of the leads that come to our business are done through referral. And how referrals have come from networking. So, you need to put yourself out there. Your LinkedIn profile represents you, and I'm about to update mine now, but your LinkedIn profile represents you. Modern world, back in, if we go back 10, 15 years ago, you would exchange business cards. Today's world, you go and link in with people. That's the modern day world. We do a lot of generational training. So how does the baby boomer talk to a millennial? And that's a really interesting concept, because you need to be prepared for both. So millennials coming in, and those Gen Zs coming in, think, well, the world's got to work around them. And so I think networking is a thing where you just got to go with the open mind of learning. So we don't go and sell, we just go and learn. We go and talk to people. So we find out what they do and how they do, what makes them tick, what they love, what they're passionate about. That's networking. I've trained many companies, when you go to a networking event, don't go and try and find 50 people, just try and find 5 or 6, right, that connect with you. And then from that connection, go and have a coffee with them or connect with them and have a bit of a chat. And you know what? Don't try and sell them. Just learn about what they do, because it'll automatically happen the other way around. And I think it's really, really powerful. And you learn from people. I learn from my customers. And there's some managing directors out there who I sit and they engage me. And they engage me for the same reason why I engage another person in my business, is because sometimes their voice is not heard. But I think networking is the case. You've got to put yourself out there. Networking for job hunting, if you're out of work, is it's a must, and that's a thing of today. But I think networking to upskill yourself, and I'm all about the brand, on how to promote the brand of the company that you work for, is imperative. And you're always networking. It's a 24-hour, 7-day a week, 352 days of the year. You are networking. And I think we do a lot of. I'm pretty good at. I was at a conference the other week and I talked about posting stuff on social media and that sort of stuff. And a few people in the room had a crack at me. Just follow Cole, because he'll put out what he's doing. He'll showcase that he's doing this, he's doing that. And what was interesting, there were 50 people in the room, and at morning tea, I had a lineup of people wanting to talk to me. So it was the best form of advertising. So I think what's important is, you just got to, you've got to put yourself out there. And today, you don't know everything, and you just got to learn.
And you mentioned before about mentoring, and you've got some mentors in the business.
Yeah.
Can we explore that a little bit further in terms of do you treat that as a personal mentor? Is it a mentor to the business?
It's a mentor with a strategy.
Okay.
So, mental health is a big thing that we're hearing about all the time. And I think if someone is mentally stressed, they need to have a personal coach, right? Because they need to help them guide that through what they need to do. And I think that's very, very important. If you're not mentally stressed, and stress is an interesting thing. So some people, when they're stressed, they become depressed and it drains all their energy. And there's another form of stress that actually does the reverse, and that seems to happen with me. So when I'm stressed, the actual adrenaline starts to kick in, and it just happens. But why I've got an outside coach coming in, and it's what I do, is I go into another business and I'll say things or pick up things, and the owner just sits there and goes, that's just been under my nose. Or I've had that conversation and they just haven't got it. And I think, where does that come from? So I'm an ex-ballroom dancer, and I had fantastic dancing coaches. And when you actually, I would travel to Sydney or another state, and I'd go and learn from another coach. And what would happen is they would say something, it was like light bulbs just went off. So I think having somebody else coming in helps those light bulb moments to get off. That's number one. Number two, it shows your team that you care about your brand and about them. Now, you can use a mentor. Training is one thing, going to train, but a mentor coming in, I mentioned that young lady before who, I said to her, I'm not happy, but, she is going so well. I actually want to give her some, and she doesn't even know it yet, I want to give her some one-on-one time with Lauren to get her, I believe that she is 100% committed to this business, but I want to put handcuffs on her. That's probably, that's a saying one of my clients said to me. How do I put handcuffs on my great leaders? And I think how you put handcuffs on them is you've got to help them grow, and it's not through you as one person. So that's my answer to that question. Why a mentor? Is because marketing's an interesting thing. In this business, we outsourced our marketing, brought it in-house, screwed it up, went back outsourced it, because you know what? We need a team of experts, not one expert, right? And again, in a business, to grow a business, you need to get some people to come in, and the advisory board set up that I've just joined. What that's all about is that's about a business has got a problem. How do I then bring in an expert on CRM or legal or compliance? Well, it's not so much compliance, but more about how do I grow the business? If I want to get into China, how do I get into China? Because in free international trade, well, I wouldn't have a clue. But I guess that's part of our skill set. I've learnt now. Well, okay, I've got connections, and some of those mentors that I'm tapped into, ex-CEO of Westpac, ex-sales and marketing manager of Flight Centre. So, they've done something right. And again, that's part of learning.
Sure. And what have you set any goals for the coming year?
Next year, so it's a really good question you've asked, because we're comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So, and the advisory board centre course actually really slapped me in the face to say, Cole, you're going well and you're comfortable. It's time to get out of the comfort zone and push a little bit harder. So for the business, yes, we're going to grow next year. So we're going to grow. We're going to advertise for staff. We've already got that pipeline, which we're already talking to some of those pipeline people now. But we're going to appoint a couple of new people in the new year to get it to that next level. I've been a little bit distracted this year, so we're releasing a new business, a second business. So I mentioned before about, I had some of my staff members leave us. Well, that really hurt us financially. And, again, to be a business owner, you have to have two things: sheer determination and high resilience, how much you can take. And once I got through that and got the business back on track again, the next thing that happened was we had this organisation called Youth Now knocking on our door, asking if I'd mentor a kid, a young adult, young professional, or just a young adult who just can't get into the workforce. So I'm like, you know what? Don't give me one, give me 10. I want to see what I can do with them. So I took 10 kids and I reverse engineered my sales training into, how to go and get a job. So what I did was I took those 10 kids through, and they taught me more. They taught me stuff you couldn't learn in an education. They taught me, you could go on 100 interviews and 100 no, not even just not knockbacks, 100 knockbacks. What does that do to their self-esteem and everything like that? So we talked about, set goals, passion. What are you passionate about? And I think that's, leadership is about, what you're passionate about. If you're not passionate about something, then you can't lead someone, right? You shouldn't be doing it. So anyway, got these guys focused and got them all in line, and we just started to create this persona of the type of company that I like to work for. And then I had them out mystery shopping those type of businesses, and then I had them out interviewing some business owners about their business, like we're doing right now. And what actually happened is, out of that first 10, 7 of them got a job before the course even finished, right? So that just all of a sudden showed, hang on, there's an opportunity here. And then what happened is, over a 3-year period, I did it voluntarily, it's part of my social responsibility. I took 60 kids through this program, and 45 of them got a job of what they wanted to do, their choice. And it's a big wow story. And what happened was, the organisation Youth Now lost a bit of government funding, so they didn't get as many students, so it became really, really hard. And I did some dribs and drabs of training as best as I possibly could. And they won an award for working with a business to help contribute to their business. And they got a $10,000 grant, or not grant, just a $10,000 gift from the state government. And it's on the state government website, and I'm there with Colin and stuff like that. And then it's like, well, okay, we need to develop this. So Lorraine and I, we've got pen to paper, how are we going to develop this? And then all of a sudden the councils got involved, and we had the councils come into our office and say, how do you develop this program? So as a council, we want to help youth more, and we're designing content and stuff like that. But we've heard about this program, and we said we want to develop it, but it's financially, it's like you got to take your focus off one business and put all your profits into another, which is always scary. But anyway, they said, why don't you apply for a government grant? So we applied for a government grant, and we didn't quite get the first one. And Lorraine, my wife, she went and found out why and stuff like that, and then we perfected it and we got the government grant. So then what's happened is I've developed it into an online training program for young people. And it actually, we have a soft launch this Sunday in Leach Street Festival, and on the 1st of February we are launching it as a professional business out there for learn locals and TAFEs unis. For once a young professional has done their degree or they've left school too early and can't get a job, then come and learn how to actually hunt for that opportunity, which links back into that networking thing that you were talking about before. So we're about to launch that, and that is hugely exciting. And I believe that will be 10 times the size of the business that I'm in right now, because all of our clients are like, and by the way, that first 7 out of 10, 5 of our clients took them, right? So because they found out through social media, I was training them. But I think we're about to develop that, and it's been a while now. It's been 4 years since we've actually done it. But that's a new business that we're launching, and we'll get that going, and Lorraine will leave Key Business Advisors to focus on that and use me when I need to use me while I get back into my business. So that's our strategy for next year. And then develop, we have 2 programs, how to manage and motivate staff through a HR process. I'm going to get that into online, very similar to what we've done with Keep Careers, and then sales, how to, what's good sales and customer service in the second half of the year. So that's our strategy for next year, and then keep growing that HR part of the business that we're doing.
So for people that want to know more about you and what you do in Key Business Advisors, what's the best way for them to find you and connect with you?
Well, Key Business Advisors is a company name, so obviously if you go to our website, you'll see all of our range of services that we do. People link into me, so Colin Wilson, LinkedIn, KBA, that's how they find us. We're in Essendon, in Victoria, but we got clients all over, and hopefully I'm about to pick up my first client in Papua New Guinea, so just something different in the new year.
So become an international business.
International business, yeah. And with the Keep Career side of things, I want to go to China next year, because there's a lot of students come out to Australia who learn in Australia, then want to go and get a job. So I want to try and beat the market, if that sort of says. We're not a training business for degrees or anything like that. We're that middle piece, which is that street smart. Okay, I've got my degree, or I've left school. What do I do now? How do I get a job? And what's the most smartest and cleverest way? So how do people find us? Well, Key Business Advisors, and the website's Keyba, KEYBA.com.au, and Kiva Careers is KEYBA and careers.com.au, and they can check that out as well. And we have a very simple phone number, 1300 for advice. So, which is branded on our cars and on our building and signs around our local area.
Fantastic. And any last views on leadership you'd like to share with our listeners?
I will give you one thing that, and I quote this comment all the time, from a managing director who is at the end of his career, just absolutely brilliant. And I remember saying in a training session, talking about empowering people and what's important to you. And majority of times when I ask that question is happy staff, getting results, the whole lot. But his answer was that the most important thing to me, Colin, is when my staff go home at the night time and they're looking at their partner at the other end of the table, and the partner says, "How was your day today?" that it's a great experience, and they don't bag my brand or anyone in the company. And I sat back and I took that comment, and I say it everywhere, because he is 100% right. What makes a person come back to your business every day to perform is it's got to be a good experience, it's got to be a happy place. You spend a third of your life at work, and he is 100% right. And I took that away and thought, you know what, that is something that I quote all the time, and just an absolute brilliant managing director. I should actually name him. Actually, his name's Eric Dick of RPM Real Estate Group. He made that comment, and it's stuck with me so strong. So and when I quote that in lots of companies, the owners think about, geez, wonder what they do say when they get home to their partner, right? It's a really good quote.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic, and it's a great way to finish the podcast. So, Colin Wilson, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Synergen Leadership Podcast. I trust you found it interesting. A couple of things. If you could go online and leave a review of the podcast, that would be great. Really help us in spreading awareness of the podcast. Happy for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. And if you want to shoot me through an email, Julian at synergengroup.com.au. See you next time.